Hey everybody, JJ here, back again with another Saturday of Zoom networking. Our guest speaker today is unbelievable. One of the, I want to say rock stars, but he's like the whole constellation. One of the great rock stars out of Pace Morby Sub2 community. You've heard me talking about Pace Morby. If you haven't, he's a supreme genius in creative real estate in the country, which means the world. Pace's Sub2 community is unparalleled as the best real estate education platform in the country, bar none. Don't care who you are. Our guest speaker today is just a great guy. I love this guy. He's a family man. He's a husband. He's a father. He has started in real estate from the ground up, doing whatever he could to get in, and has become, one of the Sub2 students to an investor, a businessman, an entrepreneur, and now a very, very successful real estate investor. My good friend, Mr. Noah Hoffman. How you doing, Noah?
Hey, JJ. I'm doing really good, and I thank you so much for bringing me on here.
Man, it's a pleasure. You know, it's one, I think the world of you because you're just a hell of a nice guy. But to be able to bring somebody on with your level of expertise and your knowledge, and you're such a supreme example of you know, how to get there, you know, because it wasn't an easy path for you. We'll talk about your path and your journey, but you know, you just become highly respected and a rock star, and you just work for it. And it's a pleasure to recognize you. You know, plus you're a great guy.
JJ, you are amazing. I'm looking at all these videos you have here that you just scrolled through, and it's like that's like a university degree right there, just watching your videos.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy. A couple of my buddies are real estate coaches for different programs, and they actually refer to my YouTube channel as the Vault of Knowledge, and they direct their students to the YouTube channel. So, you know, more than anything, I just want to, you know, there's knowledge shared but the big value that I put in everything I do is the relationship. You know, I haven't done any deals, but what we have done is we become friends. And to me, that's more important, because as we become friends and even better friends, that leaves the opportunity for deals to happen in the future. It's not like a you know, now or never kind of thing. You know, so my example is, and I talk about it all the time, the success of our business is predicated upon the 5 people we spend most of our time with. And that means the people we're surrounding ourselves with. And if I can network to become friends with people like Noah Hoffman, I'm just surrounding myself with rock stars, and basically that's what I'm doing, is surrounding myself with rock stars, because that's just you can't lose that way. Noah, for those that don't know you, where in the country are you located?
I'm here in the San Francisco East Bay.
And you grew up there, right?
I grew up in Berkeley, Berkeley, California.
Yeah.
I lived in Oakland and Berkeley. I live now in Richmond, which is just next to Berkeley. But I travel to Fresno a lot because that's one of my favorite places to invest. It's 3 hours south. And I just look at that. That was like a hurdle for me to jump through. It was just an opportunity. It used to be my like secret gold mine where I go and make money on short-term rentals. But I grew up here in the Bay Area. I love it here. It's nice and cool. It's very, very hot in Fresno. I've been going a lot lately, down there working on projects.
Yeah, I was just up in the Bay Area myself, as you know, and I was up there actually to see an Oakland A's baseball game. I wanted to see them before they left. And our good friend Derek Barton used to play for the Oakland A's, one of the other rock stars in Sub2. And unfortunately, you were in Fresno at the time, so we didn't get a chance to meet. But we'll connect again face to face soon.
Yeah.
Hey, so we're both in Sub2. That's how we met. We've met at. I think the first time was at Munif Saza's event up in San Francisco.
Yeah, I think, we met there in person, and you won the Greatest Smile Award. And you're very memorable, and like everything JJ teaches is so important, and everyone has to really hold on to that and utilize those. Not only does JJ have the biggest and best smile, he also took a picture with everyone at the event. And he casually said, I'm going to take a picture with everyone at the event. And he really did it. So that's very important to stand out and find ways to be memorable.
Yeah, I talk about it all the time. When we get into real estate investment, and we get to any kind of a networking opportunity, that is not the time to be shy and quiet, guys. That is the time. It's like, I used to do retail sales, and I would tell my employees, I don't care how bad their day was, but when they get to work, they got to put on their Disneyland tour guide face and engage and be friendly. And when you guys go to real estate mixing events, whether it's in your community or even out of state, wherever you're going, you need to network with intent. And that means to work the room, and taking pictures with people is a great way to do that. No, I wanted to talk a little bit about your journey. I mean, you're so impressive. You're so successful. You've got so many things going on. You got your finger in several different pies. You're like you remember that guy on TV that's spinning all the plates on different sticks, and he goes back to get all the plates going. He's got all these different things happening. But when you started, I mean, let's go back to, I talked about teenage years. We're driving cars, we're voting, we're 18, we're voting for the first time. In your teens, when you're going to high school, 16, 17, 18, 19, were you around real estate? Was it something you saw often? What were you doing in those years?
Oh, so I was getting into trouble as a child and teenager. I was in a lot of trouble, and I haven't really talked about it much. But I had a little bit of a rough childhood and ended up, in a lot of trouble, getting arrested and things like that as a teenager, and then kind of turning my life around at 20. And that's when I met my first real estate mentor, was at 20.
Now, when you met this mentor, how did you meet, and what was the first thing you got to do? I mean, we all, what's the phrase, cut our teeth somewhere.
Right. So I was actually selling raffle tickets, for this, it was for a drug program. I was selling raffle tickets, and he had like some, decades of sobriety kind of thing. And he kind of was really friendly to me and embraced me. And he wanted to help me. That's how it started, by him being helpful to me. And then at some point, we kind of just hung out, had coffee, things like that. And he didn't really I had nothing to offer him, but eventually he let me help him out, run errands, whatever, just like anything I could do. Like what can you do for someone who doesn't need you? You can run to the store for them. You can get them a coffee. You can hold their bag, whatever. Just just lead with service and just try to be helpful in any way you can. Honestly, I just was a friend, and he was helping me with recovery therapy, whatever you call it, for a while. And then eventually he had an opportunity and said, hey, I have this vacant studio, and I'm trying to decide what to do with it. And I had just heard about Airbnb. I said, let's put it on Airbnb and let me manage it for you. We'll furnish it and I'll do all the work and pay me something. And he said, okay. And we furnished it, and I put it online, and people started booking and just never stopped coming. It was like a 7-Eleven, because Airbnb has a brand like 7-Eleven, for example. And you put 7-Eleven on your building and people will just start walking in trying to buy things. So, we uploaded the property photos to Airbnb, wrote a description, and people just started inquiring every day. They just kept coming and coming. And I eventually managed that property for over 10 years with him. And then he started having more properties. Hey, kid, let's manage another one and another one. And then my brother has one. And then other friends would reach out, and I'm managing other people's property. I didn't own any property. I didn't have any money to invest.
20s?
I was in my 20s. I probably was 25. Hold on. No, actually. So I met him when I was 20. I actually I went off and did other jobs for a long time. I actually got a job at a real estate office and tried to learn the ropes and then I quit. And then, 10 years later came back to real estate. No, I was 30. I think I was 30-ish, 30, young 30s when I started. It was 2000. Okay, Airbnb started in 2008. I started managing in 2012. So just over 10 years ago, I started managing, and I've been managing Airbnbs continuously since 2012. And we're at about 11 years now. I started managing for other people. And then after about 3 years in, 2 or 3 years, I had other businesses and other jobs because it wasn't a full-time job for me to manage a few properties. At first I would clean the properties myself, and then I started hiring house cleaners to do that part. But if there was a problem, I would drive down and help figure out what the problem was, unclog the shower or whatever. And I would learn how to do little maintenance things on YouTube because I didn't know anything about maintenance. I started learning as I went, and I would call him and he would tell me what to do. And then one of my other businesses at the time was carpet cleaning. I had a carpet cleaning business. And then I would pitch Airbnb to the customers. It was a lot of times it would be property owners call us to clean their carpet. And then, so some of those customers would say, let's Airbnb my property. We can go half on it or split the money or whatever. And I made different deals like that. And one guy said, let me just rent your apartment. I'll rent it from you and I'll put it on Airbnb. Right now, people call it arbitrage, but I did that. And then eventually ended up getting, every 6 months, he would give me another unit because he saw how well we took care of his place. I paid his rent on time. I didn't bother him with any minor maintenance issues. I took care of it myself. Or I would hire people, but I didn't bother him. I understand, you want to, when you're trying to lead with service and build relationships, you try not to bother people. You take the work on. And so he gave me.
As you started and you had a couple of properties, what was the progression? I mean, did you work up to like 10 and 20? And I mean, how many are you managing now, for example?
Now I'm managing close to about 60, and I either own or am a partner in about a third of them.
Now, as you started to manage these, because you started managing, over 10 years ago, 2012. At what point in time did you start becoming an owner? Was it after you got into sub 2? Or was it before?
It was before I got into sub 2. So the first property I bought was in 2017. It was a duplex here in Richmond, California. I bought a duplex, and my first mentor, by the way, he was like, it's okay. It's not a great deal. But I said, I'm going to make it a great deal. I couldn't find great deals. So I said, I'm going to make it work. And so we bought it. We turned one unit into an Airbnb. And then I learned, so I actually was driving Lyft and Uber also. And I was able to use my self-employment income to qualify for a mortgage. So I had three streams of income, which was, they call it, the tax preparer called it taxi driving, which was Uber and Lyft, Airbnb management, and carpet cleaning. So, and as long as I had those three incomes on my tax returns for 2 years in a row, then it can qualify for a mortgage. Wow. So I was able to get my first mortgage with self-employment taxes. And I didn't try to write off every little thing that I probably could have, because I needed to show income to qualify, to buy a $500,000 property.
Wow.
I had to show $100,000 in income.
So let me ask you, as you got into the progression of managing more and more properties, started to buy properties, how did you fall into sub 2? How did you meet Faith? How did that transition go for you?
So after I bought that first property, a year later, I bought a second. And that was in Fresno, and I built an ADU. And then a year later, I bought a third, and I built 2 more ADUs. And then I thought, man, I think I figured out the secret to life. I can buy a property every year with a traditional mortgage, Airbnb them, build ADUs, and make good money. But then I said, because I have this little drive, this engine in me that keeps pushing, I said, well, there's got to be a better way to buy properties besides conventional mortgages, because it get challenging. So I looked up, I had heard about wholesaling. I looked it up. I found a meetup in Fresno. I wanted to go there instead of the Bay Area. And then a guy there named Stratton Brown, he said, give me a couple $1,000. I'll teach you how to wholesale. And I was nervous. I sent him the money on Venmo. And then eventually, and I was trying to wholesale, but I couldn't quite get it. I wasn't built for cold calling. And but he told me, hey, check out Pace Morby. So I followed Pace Morby, and then I joined Sub 2 before he visited the Bay Area. Well, he visited Walnut Creek. And during our meetup, he overheard me talking about Airbnb. And he said, hey, oh, you manage Airbnbs. Would you want to manage one of my units? It's in Vegas. I said, absolutely. I said, I can be there in 2 days because I got time. He said, okay, the key's under the mat. I'll text you the address. And that was it. I show up in Vegas, find the key under the mat. And I had already managed a few units in Vegas. It was a mental transition for me to be willing to manage out of town properties. Because at first I didn't want to risk it. It was seemed impossible. But the first one I managed was also in Vegas, and a good friend of mine said, we have a nephew who lives there. Please just do the online part. We just need you to help, just try. And I was like, okay, I'll try. And then it went surprisingly well. The first out-of-town Airbnb I managed was in Vegas. It was a condo, and condos make things a little bit easier if they allow short-term rentals because they take care of the exterior. And it was a small 1-bedroom unit. So my house cleaners and handymen I met online, they just did everything great. And then eventually I was managing 3 or 4 in Vegas. So I knew where to buy furniture at the Hotel Liquidator shop. They have their furniture place. You just go. They made it so easy. You just point at the sets. I want that living room set, that dining room set, those bedroom sets, deliver it today, set it all up. Wow. It was really easy. And so I knew about that place. So when Pace said, do you want to manage my property? I was like, absolutely. I went to that place. They set up the property. Pace wired the money to me from his Airstream because he was traveling at the time, to pay for the furniture. And our very first guest ended up booking for 8 months. She booked for 1 month and then kept extending. So Pace was, he was really happy about it because it was like double the normal rent rate. Yeah. And it was really easy. Like, it just was like, he was raving about it online. And then he started giving me more properties, a second in Phoenix, a third in Phoenix, one in Dallas. He started just giving, and then he started just sending me deals. Noah, look at this. Would this be good for an Airbnb? Will this be good? We definitely got, I definitely got some learning experiences through that because he started sending me bigger and bigger properties. And what we learned through that experience is, for me, the sweet spot were these $200,000 to $300,000 properties. $200,000 to $300,000 properties typically have mortgages under $2,000. It's a certain it's a sweet spot. It's not luxury. It's easygoing traveler who wants to book it at a good price and still makes good money for the owner. But when he started sending me these bigger kind of mansions with pools and hot tubs, I definitely went through some learning curves and realized how much work it takes to manage these big properties. As you know, I think you have a big property and they're not easy to manage.
I wanted to move into a different topic. We were talking there about managing Airbnbs and managing the big Airbnbs. But I kind of wanted to move into the topic of funding, because your topic is managing of and raising funding for Airbnbs. When it comes to managing Airbnbs and raising the funding, for a new investor who's looking to get into Airbnbs, what's the most challenging aspect? Is it easy to fund them and more difficult to manage, or is it?
So,
go ahead.
So I think a deal has a few main components. One of them is money. One of them is experience. One of them is sweat equity. It could be the same. One of them could be the deal if the deal is good enough. But you have to bring something to the table and you can find the other parts. If you bring the money, then you can find someone with the experience and someone, who it could be one person who's willing to bring experience and run the deal. And then you might either someone needs to find the property to buy. And it doesn't have to be a magical, super discounted property. You can buy a property right off the MLS that you like the area, you like the regulations, you like the numbers. Once you get really good at your craft, then it becomes easier to get the money. It becomes easier to get the money once you have experience. So now I have a lot of access to money now. So that very first real estate investor ended up loaning me millions of dollars on different deals. But now I'm still choosing to go get hard money loans on some other projects like fix and flip projects, because there's certain things you can't use fix and flip loans for example, if you're going to buy at an auction. So I'm going to auctions, and for auctions, you have to have all cash. For example, $1 million cash. You can't use a loan to buy a house at a property, because when you get a loan, they want to appraise the property and look at it. You can't do that when you buy a house at an auction. So now I'm deciding, okay, so my private money source, I want to use his money for buying at the auction, for example. I can use fix and flip. I can use fix and flip loans, hard money loans for flips. But for buy and hold properties, you can't use a fix and flip loan. You might need to get a sub-to, a creative deal, and you can get a money partner. You can have the money yourself. You can use a private money lender who's willing to loan you money for a few years. And most private money lenders will not loan for over a year. I mean, most Gator lenders only probably want to lend for 30 days or 60 days, something like that.
Lisa Edwards, you're on with Noah Hoffman. What's your question?
Hey, Noah. So you can buy full retail price if the numbers work.
Absolutely. Like, I've heard about some places down like Largo, Florida, some cities down there where AirBNBs are completely legal and the numbers are still good. You want to probably be careful with regulations and taxes. A lot of times people send me an address. Hey, Noah, would this be a good Airbnb? And I say, well, is Airbnb legal there? Do they tax Airbnbs there? I mean, it's good to do a little research. A lot of people haven't even looked that up yet. You can look that up online pretty quick. But yes, absolutely. On market deals. I mean, probably most Airbnbs on the planet were on market deals. I mean, so absolutely. I mean, as long as the numbers pencil for you. I mean, most wealth in real estate is made by just holding real estate over time. So it doesn't, I mean, buying it at a slight discount is just a small part. It's just a small bonus that you can get, working with like wholesalers. But yeah, a lot of my property. Yeah.
Basically, you're saying that people can buy full retail as long as the numbers make sense.
Absolutely.
Lisa, okay. That answer your question, Lisa?
Yes. Can I ask one more?
Sure, go ahead.
I was just going to comment. So I'm starting to co-host a few Airbnbs, and I've run across some deals, and I don't have the funding for them, but I think I'll just co-host a little bit and get some experience. I'm willing to put in the sweat equity, no problem. How do I figure a contract between myself and the host? Like, do I just write out a outline and go to an attorney, or?
No, I mean, so I think different people will give you different advice. So I've had an agreement written by an attorney, but I actually don't use it because it sounds too legal for me. So I just prefer to just use one that I wrote, like a one-page agreement. And then, I just think about things like you gotta, like you could, if I were you, I would just write one yourself. And then after, every time you have a new client, you should edit it, because new things are gonna pop up that you think, hey, this is my experience. What happened? I should have included this next time. I don't want to put too much stuff in there because they might get nervous. But whatever the most important things are, and you can message me after, and I can send you a couple of my examples that I've used.
Great, super, yeah.
Lisa, let's make sure we get you in touch with Noah. And message me, and let's make sure that we get you guys in touch, okay?
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Norm McCurry, you are on with Noah Hoffman. What's your question?
Great. Noah, thanks so much. We really appreciate you being here and really got a lot out of this. What do you see as the future of Airbnb? Are they going to start trying to regulate it out of business, or what do you see it?
Well, yeah, in a lot of places they are regulating it out of business. Like I just heard Dallas, they're trying to ban it in Dallas, but a lot of times these bans actually take years to enforce, and then they might even make adjustments. So there might be, so in Dallas they said you can't have them in residential neighborhoods. So it's like the jury is still out about multifamily neighborhoods. They might change their mind. So it's kind of like a game of musical chairs for sure. And so that first mentor that I worked with, he eventually started buying hotels. And those obviously are commercial zoned, commercial businesses. They're not going to have problems like regulation. So Airbnb, honestly, it was meant for regular people to monetize their property. And so, when people start doing, hundreds of units, companies start doing it, then yeah, there definitely can be some problems. But I mean, there's so much opportunity out there that I wouldn't worry too much about it. For me,
Okay.
You have to understand it can change. So a lot of people say they would prefer to, get a property where there already is some minimal regulations opposed to no regulation, because then they might come down with a bigger regulation.
Sure, I see.
So a lot of places is the regulations are reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Sure.
And again, appreciate you being here.
Cairo Dillon, thank you for being on the call today. You're on with Noah Hoffman. What's your question?
So me and my friend, he's actually flipping his house right now, but it's in Laguna Beach. I know there's some zoning laws that some short-term rentals isn't actually allowed. Would it be better to just sell it retail or do it as a midterm?
So I'm sorry, just so I can if you can just summarize the question. So you already have a property in Laguna Beach?
Yeah, it's his dad's property. He's flipping it right now, and he's in a place where, hey, should I keep it as a midterm rental and do an Airbnb, or should he just sell it?
No, so originally he bought this to do Airbnb?
No, it's his dad's house. He got through probate because his dad passed away, unfortunately. Okay. But it's free and clear. So he's trying to make money off of it. I don't know what the best.
So now, so I guess so if there's any way to hold on to real estate forever, you probably should, and you can borrow against it. If it's free and clear, then he can borrow money against it to help him with any money he might need right now. He would need to have, in most cases, a job and an income to be able to support the loan. But if he got a loan against it, I mean, he might not want to get much of a loan. I mean, he might not want it right now with kind of higher interest rates. But if he did midterm rental, then yeah, he could also monetize it that way for sure. And I guess it depends on what the value of the house is and how much it can make, and if it needs a lot of work. Does it need a lot of work?
He's flipping it right now. It should be done in September, like end of September. But yeah, he's basically gutting the whole house. So
right. So I always tell people I think they should keep their real estate for forever. It, is my stock answer, unless for some reason he needs that money for something else. Gotcha. And if he needs help looking at midterm rental strategies, you can reach out to me. You can give him my phone number. We can get on a call together. And, basically I would just look at the neighborhood and see what's available. What are other, what's the demand for midterm rentals? And so I don't do any midterm rental onlys. I do all kind of like hybrids. So I encourage longer stays, like, over a month, 2 months, 3 months, but I don't always get them. So I always will pivot and fill them with short-term stays if I have to. Because if you have a 30-day minimum, then there's a chance that it could stay empty a few months. So he has to be able to, his risk profile has to be able to support that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll definitely reach out to you. Thanks, Noah.
Cairo, thank you so much. Noah, you mentioned something that my dad used to tell me years ago, at least as far as California goes. Never sell property in California. The different states, have increasing values. Some increase more than others, but California's rates, I guess just because of the weather, my mom says that people always want to come here. Carlin, you are on with Noah Hoffman. What's your question?
You had mentioned earlier that you could check pretty easily for regulations. I was wondering if you had like a specific site or if you have to go into the ethers of each county.
Yeah, usually, yeah. Unfortunately, I don't know of one central website. I have to, but usually, I mean, usually you have to check it on the city website, like the city hall. Some of them it is county, but yeah, usually it's the city. I mean, I'll start with Google, but then I'll go into the city. And sometimes, and you have to be careful with like if you Google and see an article, because those, if it might be like 5 years ago and it might have changed. So that's why the city should have the most recent update. Like San Diego's went back and forth. Different places go back and forth a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, just the city.
I was hoping you had some sort of like collective. I was like, oh man, I don't want to do the digging, but I guess we got to do something like
well,
work.
they're working on it. There's also something called so AirDNA has something called they have a score, a regulation score. And I'm happy to send anybody AirDNA has something called Best Places to Invest Report. It costs $500. It comes out every quarter, and I'm happy to send everybody a copy, who wants it. The most recent copy that I have from a few months ago, and it has the regulation score. Yeah, so the regulation score, the way AirDNA does this by data without going to every city's website is they look at how many hosts have multiple properties, because a lot of cities say you can only have one. It has to be your primary residence, which means they only have one. So a city will get a high score if a lot of hosts have multiple listings. Other is like, what's the length of stay? A lot of regulations has like 30-day or more. So if there's short stays, then they have a score with that also. So there's different data that they collect to see which ones are friendly or not. I mean, most cities have taxes now, Airbnb taxes or transit occupancy tax, or hotel tax, whatever they call it. But there's a few cities that have their tax in its honor system. You're supposed to, keep track and bring some money down to the city. Those ones are a lot bigger of a hassle if you actually do that. But it's much easier if the city just works with Airbnb to collect it for them. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's actually a lot of information that I definitely never would have figured out. So I appreciate you.
Mr. Rasma Helye, you are on with Noah Hoffman. What's your question?
Hi, Noah. Hi, JJ. Thanks for putting this together. I appreciate it. My question was kind of in line with what Norm asked a bit earlier, but I want to take it a bit further. In light of regulations with STRs like Dallas, as you mentioned, and a bunch of other things happening in California, many people are kind of pivoting to midterm rentals, right? And a lot of the influencers in the space are advocating that as well on their channels and so on. So what I was curious about you, Noah, was I think you just mentioned that you do have some midterm rentals. I was wondering, what are some of the strategies that you implement? Like, do you go with insurance? Do you go with travel medical professionals? And kind of how you reach out to those folks to set up the connections and to get the bookings for midterms?
Okay, thanks for the question, Roz. So there are corporate rental companies, and you can send them your property information. Unfortunately, you can't just hit a switch and get tons of reservations, midterm, long stays. But so you have to actively reach out to these companies. So, excuse me, I've met a lot of these companies through Airbnb. They reach out to me, like nurses reach out to me on Airbnb, or people reach out to me on Airbnb. And then sometimes, like one of the companies, for example, is called ALE Solutions, A.L.E. AL Solutions. You can call them and say, "Hi, I'd like to speak to the landlord department, and I want to submit my property information to your database." And so there's a handful of companies like ALE Solutions, and they will reach out to you if they have a client that needs a property in your area. So I've rented houses for 3 months, 6 months, even 12 months to ALE. And there's Corporate Housing Direct. There's a handful of them that and so you have to basically start building your lists of midterm corporate companies. On Airbnb, you can still say 30-day minimum. And I think Airbnb might optimize your property. If they see this is a 30-day minimum, they might, it might help you in the algorithm for people looking for 30-day or longer stays. So, another thing someone suggested to me is to create multiple listings for one property, and that might give it a little bit more exposure. Like on one property, we had one that had like a 4-day minimum, and then the very same property we have a 30-day minimum. But we keep instant book off to make sure there's never any double bookings. We also, to leave no stone unturned, we're using other platforms like Booking.com, HomeAway, VRBO, and those are and Expedia Vacation Rentals. That's another one. So those are what I'm doing. I do have properties listed on Furnished Finders. FurnishedFinders.com is for nurses. I don't think I've gotten a lot of bookings from there, but I'm willing to try. It costs about $100 a year per property to list your property there. Yeah. So I'm just trying to do more and more work, but all these take coordination, and so I'm handing these tasks off to my VAs to help me with.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you
Sure.
for the insights. Appreciate it.
Ralph, thank you so much for your question. Lisa Edwards.
On just what you were just talking about, I was a ICU nurse for 30 years. So HR departments, human resources departments, they're the ones that bring nurses in, they bring doctors in, they do need to find housing for them. So that's a real easy target to go after.
So that's one thing. I've actually been a little bit lazy, and I haven't really reached out to HR departments, but I know that's something I need to do, is reach out to HR departments. You said at the hospitals?
Yeah, at the hospitals. Uh-huh. Any corporate company has an HR department, and they're the ones responsible for, setting up the housing.
Right.
But hospitals, I know for sure.
Right. So we're actually also experimenting with a flight attendant crash pad right now. So we bought a house. Me and some partners bought a house sub 2 recently in Oakland, near the Oakland airport. And Oakland airport has one airline that has a hub there, which is Southwest. So it took us a few weeks to kind of meet somebody there that started helping us. We were going to wait in line at the airport and asking them to put our flyer in the break room, because a friend of mine's a flight attendant. He explained how this works. You put a bunch of bunk beds in there, and they kind of share. So a lot of flight attendants, they'll come to your city. It might only be a few times a week, a few times a month, but they need a place to crash. They call it a flight attendant crash pad. And they might only pay $200, $300, $400 a month, whatever it is, but they share the same bunks. They don't get a designated bunk. So now we finally made a relationship with a woman, and she's also an entrepreneur. So we asked her if she, wants to be our house manager. And so she is now. She's recruiting right out of the break room. And now we have we're working on almost 10 people, but we have 20 beds in this house, and we're going to try to sell it to 60 people. So it's like 3 people share one bed because they're only there a few times a month.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So that's a new thing that we're trying now also.
Yeah. I also wanted to ask, and then I'll let you go. For a marketing perspective, is it good to go after, one of our best seller list was tired landlords? would it be good to go after tired Airbnb host owners? Do you ever run across?
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, if you want to co-host for them, because what it is, like if someone's doing it only as like a very side job, then they might not be good enough to develop systems. It's just like what you hear about, like a lot of landlords who only have one property. Like it's the hardest for them. Once you have many properties, it gets easier because you build systems. So absolutely, you can definitely go after tired Airbnb hosts, whether it's, probably managing their own property,
Sure, I'll co-host, but I want to buy them too.
Right. Exactly.
Cool. Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa, thank you so much for your question. That was a great question. And with that, with Airbnbs, I'm in Los Angeles. I'm investing in the Midwest because the market in LA is not great. But for Airbnb, I hear people should focus around hospitals, colleges, universities. Is that still the areas that people want to focus on for their Airbnbs?
I mean, honestly, so for me, it's always been timing and the deal. So it's like hospitals and universities are great places to be near. But like for me, like it's like I'm always looking for deals. So if I find an opportunity, I try to justify it, the location, like whether it's a hospital, a university, a Disneyland, a beach, or even some could be a big work center. Like we rent a lot of properties to Chevron refinery workers here near San Francisco Bay. In the East Bay, they have some refineries. So so for sure, any demand, any draw for a place like temporary housing for sure works good. Yeah.
Cool. So I want to kind of move in and wrap up a little bit, but before we do, I have a couple questions for you. One, if people want to follow up with you, do you have a particular website? Is it just Facebook, Instagram? What's the best way? If people are watching this on YouTube right now and they want to come to you and maybe partner up with you, or they've got a question, what's the best way for people to reach out and contact you?
Instagram is Noah Hoffman Airbnb. Just my name, first name, last name, AIRBNB, Noah Hoffman Airbnb. That's a great way to keep up with me. You might not have a question for me right now. But if you follow me on Instagram, then I'll stay at the top of your mind because I'm posting every few days. And then you can see me talking about short-term rental or other real estate or entrepreneurial things. And you can also call me or text me if you have a question, if you need help with something.
The last question I have for you is my group's a networking group, and I'm always talking about networking. And I think coming from me after a while, it's just like, okay, networking from JJ. But from yourself, someone who's become a very successful investor, you're in a number of different fields right now. Whether it's the new investor who's coming to jump into an internet education group, somewhat like Sub2, or it's an experienced investor who's now coming to the world of social media and internet investing, meaning like a group like Sub2. Whether someone's new or experienced, what is the importance of networking for anyone's business who's in real estate investment? Should they be using, say, social media? And what's the value of joining a group like mine?
It's everything. It means so that's why I'm here today, JJ. I want to give back, but I'm also selfish. So because I understand, like I have to, it's just like I have to keep the water fresh in my pond. I have to keep meeting new people. And I heard someone else give an example of like a machine that chocolate goes up and comes out the bottom and it's recycled through. So we like meeting new people is everything, so now what I do now is I'm always looking for my next partner because I can't start a new business by myself. Like I'm getting into completely new genres, new fields. Like I have a partner that runs all of our fix and flips. I'm looking for, and I think I might have identified a partner to run our RV business. So with me, I'm taking like the knowledge and my experience, and I have access to the money, the capital, and now I need an operator. I'm looking for people who want to quit their job and work full time in a business that we partner on. So I'm now that's what I'm looking. And I have a new guy right now. He's going to be a new operations manager for me. And that's what I talk to people. Hey, and a lot of times people say, hey, I'm new in real estate. I can't really be of much help. And I'm like, no, you're wrong. Tell me what your background is, because everybody's background can bring value. You know, I've met people like they're in HR. Okay, I need help with HR. I might need help with this, might need help with that. You know, everybody has something valuable to bring. So networking is absolutely everything. And so for me, I like to ask, just like I was messaging with Carlin a moment ago, and I always ask people, where are you? Obviously, I need to know your first and last name so I can remember you. But what part of the country are you in? Because if I have an opportunity in that country and in that part of the country, in that city, I might reach out to you. And what's your day job? If you're not full-time real estate, what's your day job? Because that'll help me kind of think about what you might be good at, you know? So yeah, networking is everything. And speaking of networking, I don't know if Chihiro is still on here. Chihiro said she's in California.
Chihiro, you're on with Noah Hoffman.
Yeah, I live in LA.
So what I wanted to ask you was because I used to live in Japan, and I wanted to ask
really?
you, Nihon ni doko sundemashita ka?
Oh, Tokyo.
Doko?
Tokyo.
Boku Waseda Daigaku Sochugyo shita nannen mae.
そうなの。
息子生まれた日本で. So I just wanted to, say we all have different connections we might not be expecting. So anyhow, I used to live in Japan for a few years. So if someone's from my town, from Bay Area, from Fresno, or if they used to live in Japan, I always say, let's connect about whatever we have in common.
Chihiro, that's great. I suggest you grab Noah's phone number off the screen, message him on Instagram, send him a friend request, send him a message on Facebook along with your friend request. You guys, if you're watching on YouTube, always send a message with your friend request. And Chihiro, great opportunity. You have something in common. By having something in common, you can now develop rapport, create a friendship with Noah, and you're so far ahead of the game when you create friendships with people that are like Mr. Noah Hoffman. I
have friends with AirBNBs in Yoyogi Koen, Yoyogi, Tokyo.
Oh, yeah. Nice place.
So, yeah.
Well, Chihiro, thank you for joining us, Chihiro, and we hope to have you back on another call with us in the future. Thank you. Well, Noah, again, thank you for being here today. Always dropping gold bombs. And if you guys are watching on YouTube right now, please like Noah's video. Please put your notes and comments there in the chat. If you guys are still on the call, do not go away, because we're going to stay on with Noah. We're going to do some of our breakout rooms too. Do not go away. But if you're watching on YouTube right now, please like our video. Please reach out to Noah Hoffman on Instagram at Noah Hoffman Airbnb. And you can contact me or come through the group with jjzizian.com. My last name is AZIZIAN, jjzizian.com with my website. And click the pulse setting register now button. And with that, just want to thank everybody for being on the call today. Do not go away. We got a puppy in the house. What's the puppy's name?
That's Yoda.
Yoda, he's so cute.
Or Yo-chan.
There you go. There you go. So on behalf of Noah and myself, I want to thank you guys for joining us. And Noah, I guess we'll see them next time around, right?
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
Come back for more, guys. Thank you so much.